it wasn't faking either, it was real. We have to laugh about that.
Well, our inspirational reading this morning comes from Giving and Forgiving. It's one of our pink books that we call pink books. They're channeled messages from the present day Jesus. So I will let us all know what Jesus says on page 20. He says, "Joy, freedom, growth, and peace be unto you, my children. Freedom to grow in peace and joy. For this is the true freedom. Never think that freedom is freedom from, for there is no from in the universe, for all is with us. But freedom is for, and freedom is to. Freedom to grow, freedom to be, freedom to live. And I come this night to speak to you of the most important ingredient of the freedom attitude, and that is forgiveness. Forgiveness is the door to joy, the door to freedom, the door to your energetic living. For judgment of any kind closes its own door against an area of joy for you." Well, that's good to know. And bringing us more information on freedom is a lady who's been with the teaching for a good number of years. She is a minister here. She teaches classes. She teaches in the public school. English is a second lesson. So she, I'm sure, has a lesson to teach us today in her talk, which is titled, "True Freedom Comes from Within." So help me welcome Reverend Elaine Fuller-Zachey.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, good morning.
Morning.
Freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom for what? And just what? I remember Reverend Ann Meyer, co-founder, later Ann Meyer McKeever, say that before we are born, we agree to come to earth for a certain purpose. She also said that we choose our bodies, parents, and life situations that best serve us as we each pursue the life purpose. So the key to our happiness is to discover consciously that life purpose, and Anne had information about that too. When we are working, when we are performing work that makes us happy, when we can see it benefits others and us, it's the right thing for us to do. And we feel a sense of freedom and enthusiasm when we're in that right place. True freedom to pursue our purpose comes from within, from our spiritual center, which guides us to realize it. To realize it. And how to pursue it. So how do you feel when you perform work you dislike? Angry, stuck, frustrated? Have you ever tried to force yourself to perform work you detest? It doesn't come out that well, you know. If you're like me, you don't do a good job, and you certainly don't feel any freedom. I mean, it's kind of like slavery. When I was young, I was a secretary for a short time, and that is the type of work that I have always detested. Just not at all. Well, I just don't belong there, that's all. And it was in New York at Oswego State College, and I felt as though I had to do this. I was out of high school, fresh out of high school, and I needed a job. I made terrible typing mistakes and even fell asleep while filing. The boss of the office sent me into this little room to take these little drawers out and file these cards in alphabetical order, and it was so boring and quiet. and it wasn't my calling at all, you know. I had no freedom there. So if we fall asleep on the job, unless it's testing mattresses, it's a pretty good clue that we don't belong there. So wake up and, you know, move on to something right for us. Our true desires, our life purposes, make themselves known one way or another. For me, I wanted to go to school, to college, and I enjoyed art. Indications that my life purposes or purpose included these things. When did I become interested in art? I don't know. I just remember that before the age of 10, long before that, my mom had this big chalkboard in the kitchen and chalk, and I used to just go there and draw. It was peaceful, and I was happy, and I was focused on that. And I don't know when it started. Maybe it was just one of those agreements I'd made before I came here. I think it was that. I don't remember when the desire to get an education first appeared in my awareness. It stayed, you know, both of these things stayed. But as a child, my grades were very average, not seen as good enough to get me into college. I was afraid too, afraid of other humans, and there are a lot of them around. That gets in the way of learning anything, and certainly in the way of making friends. I cried a lot during childhood and teen years. In high school, my parents didn't know I wanted to go to college, and I didn't take the desire seriously because of my grades and my shyness. I thought I wasn't good enough, smart enough, and didn't have nice enough clothes to fit in. I just saw myself as being directionless and having an artistic flair, and yet I didn't like the phrase starving artist. It doesn't make you want to pursue that career path. So I went to Paul Bean's School of Beauty, and with the idea that hairstyling would be enough art. I was an okay hairstylist, and I took night classes at Syracuse University in art and English composition. I was happiest when I was in those classes. I could just relax and let go and just be there. It was an indication of my true desires, and I didn't yet understand or take seriously. So I got married instead of following my heart to my first husband, and then divorced. And I finally expressed freedom to follow my heart by attending San Diego State University. I took classes that completed me, mostly in American history and literature. I wanted a good general education to kind of fill in what I felt were the holes in my thinking or in my humanity, I don't know. And I wanted to learn how to write as well as to know more about my country. I don't regret it. It was good to do those things. They were what I needed. And then I wound up as an English as a second language teacher. Really wound up. It just kind of came along, and I applied and got it. That way I never had to leave school. And that was just what I wanted, because I saw what education does to people. Yeah. It's wonderful. So I'm still doing that, teaching English as a second language. It's a source of joy. I love the work, the students, and everyone who works there. So that's an indication that I am doing my true desires, that I tuned into that, what it was, and so I accepted my freedom to pursue my dream. And it was a knowledge that came from within. Now I paint too, guided to do so by my inner Christ, that spiritual center that we each have. Painting is a light meditation. And sometimes I sell a painting, and I like that. Okay, art is a source of joy. When I teach or paint, I feel happy. As Anne Meyer McKeever said, doing work in accordance with our true desires brings happiness. When we allow ourselves to find the right way to freely follow our true desires, not the desires of others, and not our fears, we're happy. We're happy. It's expressing ourselves honestly, right? Our true desires can simply jump into our awareness, slowly appear on their own, or we can purposely meditate to be conscious of them. Either way, the awareness, power, and freedom to follow our true desires, or our life purpose, comes from within. It's accompanied with the feeling of, wow, this is it. There's no alternative. Not no alternative born out of fear, but no alternative born out of love. You know, it's just a rightness of being. It's a wonderful have to, a true have to, which calms stress, which brings peace, which is felt as a tremendous empowerment. It was with me. I was powerful when I was a student. There is a sacredness and responsibility that goes along with connecting with one's true freedom. When I express that true freedom, my Christ-like work, I feel a smooth, peaceful rightness of being. You can call it love if you want, but love is sometimes overused. So I'm going to say a rightness of being. Things are right. During meditation, I sense that I'm somehow the observer, watching myself and everything else from a place that surrounds it. This is a sense of the I am, a place of sacredness. Here I realize what life really is. The stillness that contains all motion. The silence that contains all sound. The infinity that contains all time. The complete wholeness that contains all of its parts, while being all of those parts. The realization of the unlimited that I experience is naturally connected with my human mind, of course, which is limited, seemingly limited, and so influenced by that mind. That mind influences my realization of indivisibility with my sense of earthly division. But I can also become the watcher of that. So in a way I can step outside of that too. Words too get in the way because words are divisive by their very nature. I mean, when you use a word, you are defining one thing as opposed to what that thing isn't. I usually think in words. I'm sure you probably do too. So when I go to that place of sacredness, I'm really using more than my human mind. I'm using that and outside. So sacredness, responsibility, when we express our true freedom by engaging in our purpose, we can realize sacredness. When we see that, we feel a responsibility to serve those entrusted to us by God, such as students, listeners, animals, family, trees, the earth. In this way, we lead, and a leader is one who serves. As Jesus, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and our own Anne Meyer McKeever, co-founder, exemplified for us. When I speak at the Teaching of the Inner Christ, or TIC, When I teach, when I care for my family, I lead, and so I serve. In a nutshell, my life purpose is to have ever-evolving knowledge of God and to share it in a variety of ways with those who desire. Sharing, serving. It's my way to serve. Finding TIC was a result of an evolving hunger for purpose. As I was nearing the end of my education at San Diego State University, I realized there was another step somewhere, and I searched for meaning through spiritual organizations until I found the teaching here. I realized that my inner Christ, Jesus, led me here, led me to freely fulfill this part of my life goal when I was ready for it. What is my next step? Is there a next step? There always is for all of us. Actually, the stepping never stops. There are no little pictures and then another picture and there's nothing staccato. It's a progression. I'm ready for whatever it is. I don't know. So how do we find out what our true desires are so we can consciously express them? So we can freely express them? How do you know what yours are? TIC gives us a perfect way to do it. Pray for it, for that knowledge. Pray with inner Christ guidance. Pray to be shown what the life purpose is. Then with guidance, meditate on it. Right? Prayer is asking, meditation is receiving and listening. Right? Why ask if you don't want an answer? They go together. A word or idea during meditation, a word or idea may pop into the mind, or maybe later on. So, be open to receiving information in surprising ways too, like the unexpected can be our answer in music, in clouds, in an overheard conversation, a dream, a TV show, a childhood memory, a childhood desire. So what about you? What activities make you feel a rightness of being when you are in the middle of them? Yeah.
Writing and singing songs has made me feel that way for a long time.
Yeah.
But also writing talks does for me.
Right. Good. Well, let's take a minute and meditate on this, Kathy, and then we can write down little notes about what activities put us into that state of the rightness of being in the perfect right place, fitting in the wholeness, the oneness that is God. Meditate with inner guidance, with spiritual guidance. TIC calls that with the inner Christ guidance. Make a few notes. Okay. And then we can share them with the group, I think, if we have time. Kathy? I'm sure we've got something going on. And Reverend Elizabeth, you already shared some wonderful things. Do you have something else you want to add to that?
Well, the realization that I had was that most of the things I do, you know, for myself, but they usually do have to do with sharing with others in some way. And I even get a lot out of, you know, groups where we interact and share with other people. And so it ways to express myself, but just expressing myself is not all I want, apparently. I think it has to do with then sharing with others, hoping that that will help them in some way, too.
Thank you, thank you.
Because it's an important thing for me.
Thank you.
I think probably for most of us here at TIC.
I'm sure. Anyone else have contribution? I bet you do. Want to share? Well, what I realized the obvious. I mean, I didn't write anything down. I was up here thinking, just being here, coming here. There's that feeling of the rightness of being. It's a smoothness, a lifting, a lifted feeling. Just being here, healing and good. And how does that influence others? Well, hi, people. Maybe you're influenced by my talk. Also, when I go back to work Monday, it influences me to be more stable, a better teacher. And I'm sure we can think about this exercise. Maybe meditate on this little exercise at home. Huh? Yes, Anne.
Yeah, with music, you know, which I've done all my life in one form or another, and art also, which I spent, I think I put about 100,000,000 miles on Photoshop to get it to work the way I like to draw. So I'm always doing that. But what I like about the things that I'm doing is always like new development. Like when you go to school and you learn something and you think, oh wow, and it's that feeling of taking in something as well as putting something out. And there's always something every day where there's an advancement or an expansion of awareness. Even things that where you have to convince yourself there's a silver lining. Well, where is it? You know, but but that sort of thing. So, and I've been in recovery for a long time, and that still feels is very new because there's always new people coming in, and I learn new things about myself and the situations I deal with are seem to be hardwired. But it's interesting how I've learned how something that seems to be a flaw turns into a benefit. Deficits become assets when you get them balanced. So that's an ongoing thing. So again, that's a advancement and growth.
Thank you.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, thank you.
Good way to live.
Yeah, well, think about this little exercise and how it points to what our quote-unquote true desires are. And we're expressing that freedom that comes from within. I mean, we didn't come across a list of directions. Oh, do this with your life,
Right.
It came from within, some way or the other. And with assistance of our inner Christ, we can certainly have clarification on what it is and how to pursue it. So, thank you for participating. And great. Maybe you got something new or confirmation of something old.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, God, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was helpful. Right, Mr. B. Right, Mr. B.
Thank you.
Right, Mr.
Thank you,
B.
Reverend Elaine, that was great.
I like that.